Welcome to the Arizona Wildcats Show, brought to you by Fry's Food Source. I'm Star Sports Editor Ryan Finley, here with the man who has been to the edge of the biosphere.
Not the local one.
Jon Gold.
Is that cool? Is the one here cool?
But biosphere too.
Is that cool?
Yes.
Oh, worth going?
Yes, better than the Biodome of Pauly Shore fame.
Nothing's better than Biodome. And it's a Stephen Baldwin fame.
Stephen Baldwin fame. All right, let's talk Wildcats hoops here. Stanley Johnson had one of the better halves you'll ever see out of any college basketball player, much less a freshman who's really been struggling. Take me through what he did in the second half against Utah last Saturday and really what that meant to not only his team, but what that might mean going forward.
I think exactly what you just said. The bigger thing is going forward, what it might mean. I think he learned what he can do, and I think that's just sort of take over. He's been hesitant, and I think he's been hesitant because Sean Miller makes anyone hesitant to be the guy with Arizona. Right. You know, he only let Nick Johnson run so wild, and Nick Johnson was their best player. Right. And so
Nick Johnson was a third-year player who had earned the trust of his coaches by playing defense.
And even that trust was with a leash. Stanley Johnson in the second half just basically looked like, all right, I'm unleashed. And he took it to the hole. He was aggressive. He made a couple mid-range jumpers. I think he made 1 or 2 threes. And he really he played within himself, but as the star. And I think they need that offensively, quite frankly, because no one else wants to step up and do it.
Right. Well, and to me, the number that jumps out at me the most, I believe, was his 8 second-half rebounds. Yeah. When you look at what rebounds mean, to me, rebounds equal effort. Yeah. And for Stanley Johnson to be giving a max effort when he's scoring in a close game, rebounds, I mean, that's not a glamorous statistic, and yet Stanley was able to grab rebounds, and that sort of kept his offensive game going, I think.
Yeah, they always talk about how their defense leads to offense, and what that really means isn't that they're going to steal every ball and that leads to every basket, but it means it's a general attitude of if you're aggressive defensively, it gets you quicker up the floor. Yep. And what they were able to do was space Utah out really well. Brandon Taylor was knocking down 3 after 3 in the first half, went cold in the second. DeLon Wright started the game with Utah's first 7 points, 3 for 3 from the field, scored 3 points the rest of the way. And like you're talking about Stanley Johnson, he really took over that transition game in the second half, but it wasn't like they were breakaway dunks. It was just they were making really good decisions and they were putting the ball in the hoop, and Arizona hasn't always done that. So when they do it that well, you're a little surprised.
Well, to me, what's interesting is they're not running like they have in the past, or maybe not
even like last year.
Right, or maybe like they should, frankly. You have the athletes to do it. Absolutely. Running is generally good. It was interesting to me, and you mentioned the word spacing, is they weren't going vertical as much as they were going horizontal. Is they were able to, in transition, space the guys out, open up the lanes to drive, and then kick. I mean, to me, their spacing was as good against Utah as it's been all year.
Yeah, and that's the issue is why isn't it always this good, And that's kind of what you worry about with this Arizona team is, are they going to keep it up? Can they become consistent with it? And I think the key to this all is Brandon Ashley and Caleb Tarczewski. If Ashley knows when to be in the post and when not to be, and if Tarczewski knows when to catch the ball and when not to let it flub off his hands, which sometimes is an issue, they're pretty good. The key to it is Caleb getting enough baskets and touches early to kind of set up the transition and the outside game, and Ashley playing both well. And that's when it turns into that, which was pretty good.
What is next for Stanley Johnson? What does he need to show and prove to sort of live up to those unrealistically ridiculous expectations of top 5 pick?
6 games in a row, 7 games in a row of this. You look at Chason Randall from Stanford. Yes, I think 5 of his last 6 games were over 20 points. And yes, he's their focal point, and yes, he's the guy in their offense, and they don't have a 4th or 5th wheel like who's Arizona's 5th offensive option might be T.J. McConnell. They don't have that at Stanford. But ultimately, Stanley Johnson needs 18, 20 on a regular basis to make me feel like, all right, he's worth a top 2 pick. Right.
That'll do it for this episode of the Arizona Wildcats Show, brought to you by Fry's Food Stores. For Jon Gold, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.
Try this matchup. Low prices and faster checkout. You can count on it at Fry's.